Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald, Jamie Pluff,
Here.
Greg Dumont here,
Here.
Carol Langford, Danielle Matt,
Here.
Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Here.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Len Two-Teeth,
Here.
Lanesh Trahan. Abby, can you put down Tom is at AT&I conference, please?
Thank you. Will do.
And Carol is at Ameren.
Martin, will you give us a prayer this morning? Please, please.
Grandfather, today we ask for healing for our communities, for the losses we've had the last few months. Prayers for all of our elders, our kids, the future people that aren't even born yet. Prayers for the weather, thankful for the cool snow and rain that we need. Prayers for our summer and not so dry. And all of our leaders, near and far, all of our friends, all of our enemies, everyone in between limits.
Minutes from May 12th.
Motion to approve the May 12th minutes.
Motion by Martin to approve the May 12th minutes. Any correction? Second by James. All in favor? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and we have Lynn abstaining and Danielle abstaining. Who am I missing? Oh, and Greg is abstaining. Pardon me. Len is actually a vote for. So we have 6, 4, and 2 abstains. We have an agenda. Any additions to the agenda? James. Other additions? None. We do have one walk-in. Danielle. If that is what it is, I'd welcome a motion by James to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Danielle. All in favor? I think we're unanimous on that. So we'll go to our first login, or I mean our first walk-in. Morning, Crystal. Come on up. Welcome, and if you just turn the microphone on when you're speaking, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. My face is right in front of
Is
the camera.
this executive, Crystal? No, open. Open.
Morning. My name's Crystal Matt. I have a sorry. I have a small business in Ronan, Ombre Mountain Designs. I do garment decorating apparel. So I decorate on clothing, heat transfers, vinyl, screen printing, outsource embroidery. Right now I am working out of Old Dupuis Smoke Shop in Ronan. Do you guys know where that is? So I rent a building from the tribe. And I think recently you guys did a fair market value appraisal. So my rent went up from, I think I'm paying like, I started out paying $350. My rent went to $1,700. So I'm seeing if I could get it reduced.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, this came from the request from a couple councilmen and councilwomen that wanted to get all of our tribal business lots fair market appraised and to start charging a fair market appraisal amount. The last month's meeting, when we had another individual requested a similar situation, and it got brought up about allocation rates for our business, our tribal member business owners that are doing this and leasing from the tribes. If they could get an allocated rate similar to agricultural. If that's the case that we looked at, it's a 24% of the actual fair market rate, because out of the range stuff that we do, it is $23 an AUM. We have our tribal membership do $5.50 this year and up 50 cents every year until 2030. And then reassess at that time. If we do the 1701 that her fair market appraisal came to, and we do the reduction as an allocated rate, that changes that valuation again back into that rate she's talking about. It would increase her to the allocated rate of 24% at 408.24. Because we did it last month with another individual over in Hot Springs.
Good, Greg.
So, Crystal, does that work for you?
The 40,
408.24.
yes.
Okay, so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Greg to move Crystal's rental to the allocated rate. Second by Len. All in favor?
Mr. Chair.
Jamie, are you with us? Okay, it's a unanimous. Go ahead, Mark.
If I could make another motion then to eliminate this, is that any tribal members that are business lessees renting from the tribes, they could potentially be getting a allocated rate. For especially the ones with a revocable or short term, such as this.
You're basically asking for a policy, right?
Potentially a policy on it, if we want to look at it, and we can bring that in at a later date.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I would suggest bringing that in at a later date. I think there are a number of issues around our support for tribal member entrepreneurs that we need to kind of look, put them on the table all at the same time. Business leases would certainly be one of them. Our procurement policy is another, but we have a priority resolution that says we're going to do some things in that area, and I think we need to take a look at everything and take the land policy as it applies to business leases and fold that into a broader policy for how we are going to support our tribal business people.
Good. That's good enough for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Crystal, for coming in today.
Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. I haven't been in to check out your shirts yet. James, is your issue in open?
But
Go ahead.
yeah, this morning I had a request. We had Marvin Gobert pass and his daughter is enrolled member Marlene Finley. She lives down in California, and so they were asking if we could give assistance for her dad for his services, or what we might provide for a non-member that's father of a tribal member. And then they were also requesting if there was any assistance that we could provide to Marlene to get back from California for his services. So those are the couple issues I had. Thank you.
Well, the non-member family assistance is an automatic, just needs an application through James. And any thoughts on the other? Go ahead, Jen.
Hey, James, can you send me the mortuary, the funeral home, and then we'll be able to send the 600 to the funeral home?
Okay, I'll do that.
So the second request is a request for waiver, just to somebody off res.
Specifically for dire need, or,
Don't
Yeah.
know that totally.
I
Just
mean, I think that's what it's gonna end up being, right? I mean, if we provide assistance, it's gonna be through them. So they're gonna have to apply and
Get more info too and
yeah. if you
give
come-
them the right people to contact. So,
then-
okay, thank you.
Thanks, James.
Find out by probably later today.
Then is your issue an open? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I just wanted to acknowledge tribal member Caleb Birdrattler. Caleb is a senior at Polson High School, and this past weekend he participated in a Special Olympics event in Billings and did fairly well. I just felt the need to acknowledge his accomplishment because it's his senior year, and he took a lot of courage and dedication to do what he did. Not only did he represent Polson High School, but he represented us. So I think it's important that we just show our appreciation for him. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. That's awesome. Danny, you got something?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We briefly discussed it yesterday in Chair's meeting. And I'm glad you're here, Len. I got a call from SNK Technologies, or SKMM, in reference to the Elmo Travel Plaza. And I know we'd had discussions with them about it, but SNK Business Services is still actively working on it. And so I wanted to bring it up so we can make a decision whether we're going to pull that from SNK Business Services and turn that over to Chad's crew up there at SNK or at SKMM. But there's still RFPs going out, and I don't think we've made up. I think we've got a direction we want to go, but we haven't made that official decision yet.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, I received a call from Binky Hall, and she was quite interested in working on this project. However, it just appears that the SK Business board did not really prioritize the Elmo Travel Plaza project, and I know at that given time, James Bible was busy with a couple other projects in Mission. I think he had a storage project, and he had another project that he was in the works, and so I know they were working pretty hard, and so I think that would be the direction I would like to see us go is allow SK Technologies staff to start looking at how we can move forward because it was a very interesting conversation that I had with them because it appears they have the resources to start getting things moving along. So I would really like to see the council move in that direction.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Binky last night as well. I think it would be helpful for the council if we would ask Chad to come in and talk to us about the RFP that SK Business Services put out. Bottom line is, he would not be interested in responding to that RFP because it is so poorly written, is full of holes, and so it represents a larger problem that is on our hands. So I think I asked Binky to sit down with Chad and to start to pull together an approach that they would recommend, given the fact that the current RFP is pretty flawed. And so they will pull that together, and I think we should call them in to talk about that. And then I think we need to follow up with the issue with S&K Business Services as well. So I think it goes beyond the travel plaza.
Yeah, this was, I mean, this is our doing. We're the ones that pulled it from SKMM to begin with and gave it to S&K Holdings. And, you know, that's the person that did it. So let's, remedy this, but we got to be careful about taking people at their word without any kind of, idea of what they've actually done, because that's what this was. They maybe they're young and brash and said they can do everything, but they said that they had experience doing this. They said they could do all of this. And now they're outsourcing the entire project. And that you can see that's an AI generated, proposal. I thought Greg sent that response that Chad had last week to everyone from the RFP. Did everyone not get that? I guess actually, and Greg would be the one to, not Spar would be the one that, probably an executive we'd want to talk about this, because and it's not us directing anything. We got to talk to their board. So at this point, we can pull it back because it's our project, but we gotta we gotta fix our own mistake, and we need to get someone else on the storage units in Mission, because that's already a year behind, and means that's 2 years behind now, because it won't be done for at least a year is what he's saying. And then we have this other fledgling business that we're trying to get off the ground under the direction of them, with the cannabis business, which is going nowhere as well. So, those are huge red flags that we have out there. And one of them is our own doing.
I'm sorry, Martin, did you say that Chad sent an email or just his comments at the meeting about the RFP?
Yeah, there's an email that he sent to Greg and myself. I thought it was everyone, council. I'll look for it.
I have not seen that. I would like to see that.
So we'll follow up and get the specifics, cancel the RFP and figure it out. Danielle?
So my response, I guess, to Binky and S&K would be is we're gonna not have it officially to them until we talk with S&K Business Services, or do we need an official action to pull that back, I guess is.
Yeah, I think we do have to have official action, and I think Martin's suggestion's a good one, that we have a little discussion with Greg Barr.
Okay.
Anything else for this morning before we jump into our regular agenda? Go ahead, Lynn.
Just on another note, so I've been communicating with Marie at Three Chiefs a week and a half or so. SNK Gaming will be releasing the former HR building across the street from Quatucknuck back to the tribes. And so I think I'm thinking that's an ideal location for a Three Chiefs venue. And I would like to look at leasing that to them and let that be one of their permanent homes that they've been seeking. And I know Marie said that there was some changes that probably need to be made to the building, but you know, whatever they need to do to make their business work. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because I think that's something we should support, so Three Chiefs can get a stable footing and have somewhere permanent.
Danielle.
I really like the idea of them being there in Polson. It'll catch a lot of that tourist traffic. I think that spot, I have to check with Tom, but I think it was slotted for a future marijuana dispensary. But talking about some of the problems we're having there, moving things forward, it's coming from that same organization or same LLC off of us. So we might need to switch gears and go that way.
I don't think it's that building. I think it's the lot next to it that
For the
is going to be
dispensary.
the dispensary. I don't think we even discussed that building.
But the word has come up that that building will be vacated by gaming though. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, that's what Tom had told me because I had suggested utilizing that as possibly a warming center. And Tom had told me that that building was going to be utilized for the cannabis dispensary.
We'll check into it. So with that, let's go ahead and get into our regular agenda. I see Scott's here. Come on up, Scott. Good morning.
Morning, Tribal Council. Today I had two things. The first one is first one on the agenda. I just gave Jennifer some information that it's like a quick slideshow that I'd gotten after the request from our consultant DJNA for the SS4A grant to explain some things. So while that goes out, I'll talk about the second thing on my agenda, the contract for Grace Lane Bridge. So what's happened so far is we installed a temporary bridge, which was a forestry bridge. They had owned it, and we had an agreement with forestry to install this temporary bridge due to the fact that we couldn't get the materials for the permanent bridge in time, and that bridge was in dire need of replacement and imminent failure. So we did get that temporary bridge installed with using SKMM's contract, and Battle Ridge Builders is the ones that did the installation of that temporary bridge back in March. They finished it before the irrigation started. And that was our goal, is to get it in with the FIP permit that we had to get that temporary bridge installed at Grace Lane. So we got that in, and now before us today is the permanent bridge. And up until about a month ago, it wasn't going to be a problem to get materials for this second bridge, the permanent one. They were saying 2 to 3 months lead time for the bridge, but now they're saying it's steel is really back ordered again, and it's kind of imminent that we need to get the permanent bridge ordered now in order to get it installed in October. So that's where this comes in, is we have this SKMM contract modification to do the temporary bridge. I mean, not the temporary, the permanent bridge across the canal. Yeah, this one is let's see. Contract modification for their task order. The modification is for $504,000 to get that bridge put in, and it's kind of almost an emergency bridge, because we have to get the other one out because of the permit, and so this $504,000 includes removing the original bridge, removing the temporary bridge after the permanent bridges. So I guess it's removing the original bridge, replacing that original bridge, and then removing the temporary bridge also. So
You're saying this doesn't happen until October?
yeah, that's when the stream flows. Like the earliest that the FIP permit allows is, I think, September 15th. And then the earliest we can get materials is October 1st. If we ordered it today or like very soon.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, just a couple questions. This project is a part of this year's work plan, or is and I would imagine that the obligation of funds would occur well in advance of October, if you're going to order the bridge, right? So the second part of the question is, if it's a part of this year's work plan, is it also a part of this year's budget that you have? And is approval of this bridge project going to have any impact on other projects that you have scheduled?
Yeah, this one is actually when we originally started this, it was not a part of my roads program at all, and it became a part of, through Seth, it became a part of the water compact funds. That's where this funding is coming from. So it won't affect any of the roads program right now. But after like last summer, when we added this road to the program, then any maintenance on this bridge and the road beyond it is I think it's a tribal road, but it's on the BIA's road inventory.
Motion by Greg to approve mod 2 to what's the task order 23-104-309.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second, and then I have a question or a comment.
Second by James.
Good.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of an old comment, but one of the issues that I had with BIA roads in the past was we were fighting with all the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the roads because the little tribes were claiming all kinds of roads, highways and interstate highways and everything. And the large land-based tribes were, you know, getting basically, in our opinion, the short end of the stick because of that. Oklahoma tribes are claiming all kinds of stuff as well. And I don't know if that's gotten any better in 20 years. I'm assuming probably not. But I know 20 years ago, that was our big fight with the Bureau of Indian Affairs road program, was they were letting those tribes claim any kind of road in their inventory and getting more money than we were for all of our roads. And so we're like, wait a minute, we've got more territory, more roads, but yet we can only count X, Y, and Z roads, and you're letting, you know, Oklahoma and these little tribes count everything. So I don't know if it's gotten any better or not. Hopefully it's gotten better than that, you know, 20 years ago.
All in favor? Jamie?
So Scott, based on our action about removing some of the roads from the inventory, how many total miles of road was that was removed from?
I believe it was 32. Yeah, just, I wasn't prepared with that answer, but I think that's what it was, is
Okay.
30 something.
Also, just another issue that I wanted to bring up, and it's been brought up at the last two Kootenai Elders meetings, was in regards to the roadway that goes to the Mud Lake Trailhead. Okay.
Okay.
It was brought to our attention that there was a non-member that is blocking access at the canal. Okay. Can you look into that, find out more, and report back to us on the status of that? Because if that's the case, that's something that we need to address as soon as possible.
Yes.
It was told to me that it was a former state game warden that has blocked that road.
Mud Lake Trail access.
Abby, that last vote was 7-4 and Martin was out of the room. Greg.
Yeah, Scott, before you head out today, we have an Arley district meeting first Monday of each month. And the agenda is left open to the people to decide what they want in the following month. And they would like to have a presentation from Rhodes. My suspect is they probably have some helpful suggestions about projects you might want to include in the not too distant future. So that'll be the first Monday at about 6 o'clock. That'll be June 1. So if you could put that on your schedule.
Yeah. Do you want me to coordinate with anybody on that?
No, just bring supper. That's up to you. You can coordinate with whoever you wish, but it's an open discussion with the community. They're going to have questions about different roads, what the responsibility of your department is, things like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Would I contact you for any questions that I might have?
Yeah, me
Okay.
or Bing, either
Okay.
one of us.
All right, thank you.
You said you had a little presentation on the SS4A.
Is this being shared now? Oh. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go over this. We're looking at applying for actually a large grant. That's kind of a follow-up to the Safe Streets for All that we completed last year. Last year we did the Safety Action Plan. Let's see here.
You actually run the slideshow?
Yeah. I guess it's on the slideshow. Can you see this? So yeah, this Safe Streets for All is a competitive grant program that funds tribal initiatives to prevent roadway fatalities and serious injuries. We adopted the Safety Action Plan in June of 25. The plan identified spot and projects improvements. Spot policy and improvements that would help achieve the vision of zero fatalities. I'm trying to figure out how to change the page. Maybe it's lagging a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so here's kind of a timeline of what happened is we had gotten awarded a 2022 grant, and then in 2024 we started it. There was a big lag time back then, but then in 2025 June, council adopted the CSKT Safety Action Plan. And now here's where we are in 2026. They issued a funding opportunity in March. And now the applications are due in a couple weeks here, but then they'll be awarded in late 2026. Oops, missed something. Okay. So there's two parts to this. There's the implementation grants, which is the projects, and then there's a demonstration and grants, which I'll talk about later. But the implementation grants are used to implement strategies consistent with the safety action plan. There's overall throughout the country, there's $687 million available for implementation projects. And the funding range they expect is 2.5 million to 25 million. And kind of what we're aiming for in this grant is about 10 million. Award recipients are required to contribute a 20% match, which may be, we're working out the in-kind and versus federal and non-federal sources. I'm working with our experts to do that. I've been working with Samantha Morjo a little bit with, she was in, okay. She's involved with some other grants that we've done that were safety related. And we had a pretty good team put together to do some of these type of grants that involved a lot of walkways, crossings, safety. And like Road to Zero was the latest one that she had submitted for through us with to do some of these improvements. But we were working with the university, U of M and the Western Transportation Institute. They were assisting in these. So applications must select priority projects from the safety action plan. So I'll just go over some of these here that we're looking at doing is the priority ones that we had were Polson, Pablo, and Ronan, safe routes to school, which doesn't eliminate the other Arlie and everything else, because this demonstration projects, demonstration portion of the application would be able to do a lot of improvements, or even temporary, which becomes permanent improvements to, say, Arlie and other Charlo. The next slide, I'll explain this a little more, but the selected projects should be able to have council and tribal council support, be supported by local match, and no conflict with existing efforts. So out of that safety action plan, we had priority areas listed for safe routes to school treatments. And that's where we came up with Polson, Pablo, and Ronan to do like major implementation projects. All these other ones we can do stuff with what they call it, demonstration program grants. So that's what number 2 down here says, subsequent intersection in the selected communities were further prioritized for treatment. This is just quickly what they came up with out of the safety action plan. Crossing treatments with curb ramps at intersection, sidewalk, and then flashing beacons is the RRFB at 4 intersections. And Ronan, we had this overlaps with the Tribal Transportation Program Safety Funds request, but we haven't gotten awarded that yet. But go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, on the Pablo one, you're aware that they're going to put a basketball court on that empty lot right across. Are you working with the tribal lands? I think Smith Paving, I hope.
Yeah, we'll work with them.
That way, yeah, it's not duplicating or tearing up what they already did.
Yeah. Thanks. So yeah, this would get a lot of money for a lot of sidewalk and intersection and pathway improvements for all of these projects, and install some of these flashing beacons. I think they were pretty conservative in these numbers. We'll probably refine them a little bit. They seems like they're pretty high to me, but we're asking for a lot. To improve some sidewalks and lots of different intersections. And we were looking at doing those solar powered intersection, like flashing beacons, to kind of eliminate or alleviate the monthly cost for each individual section. Yeah. I think. Yeah, if there's not any questions, I just want to say that all we want today is the request, the support and submittal of our support and permission to submit the grant application for the Safe Streets for All implementation and demonstration grants.
Any question? Motion by Martin to approve the grant submittal to go after the money. Second by Bing. All in favor? We're unanimous. Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't have anything to add. Scott did a great job, and we're excited to submit the application and hopefully get to do some additional pedestrian safety work that we started last year. So thank you all for your support.
Danielle, go ahead.
Hey, Scott, just wanted to thank you for getting the roads down there and the agency out to bid. I had one concern. I've seen them guys out there marking things, but two of the roads have manholes that are covered by the current road and dirt. And so I just want to make sure you connect with Rocky and them at housing. Even talking with, I think it's Darwin, like their maps aren't up to date that they have even. They just had to dig up one of them the other day to access it. So just wanted to give you a heads up so we're not having to tear up a new road for sewer lines down the way.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I did get all the as-bills from them, but I have somebody that can go out and verify that. Patrick Lozo is working for me as an inspector now.
Yeah, because where their map was for the one they had to dig up, that everything was quite a ways off when they were out there
Okay.
last week.
Yeah, I'll have him verify a few things on that.
Okay, thank
Right.
you for that. My other one was, I know we were emailing about Dandy Gym Lane. Did your team get to that?
I think so, but I'll double check.
I just haven't been down there to check, but if they did, thank you. And if not, I thank you for putting it there to get done. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Morning, morning, John.
Morning. Today I'm here to seek approval for task order 321. It's in the amount of $1,047,367. And on the task areas, there are 7 task areas. They start on page 24. Kind of a variety. Got some test well removals, some generators for IT, which is, since IT is growing, it's getting pretty important with the weather nowadays. Some more paving, and there'll be more paving to come. Slab out at Food Sovereignty for their incoming freezer for the Buffalo. Some A&E for the old longhouse in St. Ignatius. We got some settling and some kind of damage we got to take care of. And then for the forestry, which is a forestry project, get the A&E done, and next fiscal year, we plan to work on the electricity and remodel that place. And then all the rain gutters from the new roofs we put on recently. Anyway, that's task areas and task orders 321. Just looking for approval or non-approval.
Motion by Martin to approve task order 321. Go ahead, Martin.
I know, John, this is just for engineering, but once work starts happening down at the Longhouse, I'm sure you know they gotta be very sensitive if they're digging that area.
Yeah, we're already aware of that from doing the pavement. And we work very closely with preservation, so, yeah.
A motion? Do I have a second? Second by Greg. Go forward with task order 321. All in favor? We're unanimous. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I asked, well, since Chad's here, I'd asked Greg to come in and continue the discussion. I know this, I'm sure Jen's gonna be mad, but I think it's kind of important enough that we, since they're here, we have a discussion with them in executive.
We will go out of regular into executive. We'll take a break. I think we got 7, so we'll go out of regular into executive. Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Bing. Motion by Bing to offer the Sago for parcels, the Mission Sago parcels for lease for this season. Second by Danielle. All in favor? I've got 5-4 and James abstains and Jamie's abstaining and Martin's for, so 6-4. James and Jamie abstain.
Thank you, guys.
Can we go back in executive for legal?
Go out of regular into executive. We got a attorney's contracted question. Need a motion. Motion by James to approve the contract for our prosecuting attorney. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Got 7-4 and Jamie abstains. Yeah, it'll include the resolution.
Right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Can we go back into executive?
Oh, just sorry, one last update, Mr. Chairman. I'll be out next week, just want to let the council know to attend my daughter's college graduation, but John and Brian and Lana and the crew should all be around, so if anything pops up.
Back into executive. Motion by Danielle to observe the dates that Jennifer just told us.
Abby, that motion, Jen's just gonna forward you the dates and times.
Do I have a second? Second by Greg. All in favor? Unanimous. We will go back into executive. I think what? Matea, I think we're here, so I think we can get going. Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everybody and the rest of the council. So today we are here for our second biannual research update symposium. So the TRRB, as part of their requirements for approving research, is to give yearly updates in front of you all. So we decided to do this symposium to have a central location to also invite the community. So today is our day one of the second symposium. We'll have our day two on June 9th. Today we have 4 presenters. They will have 15 minutes to present with a 5-minute question and answer part. So for the crowd, if you have any questions, feel free to come up to this mic. Right here, we are live stream. I know in our first session, the questions in the crowd, it was hard to hear them online. So that's why we're asking people to come up to the front. Any questions? Not yet? Okay. So our first presenter, I'm sorry if I say your last name wrong, is Anthony Bertolotti and Ian McRahu. They are from SKC, and so they are presenting on their sustainable land and water resource community-based research experience for undergraduates. And they have the mic now.
Thanks, Matea. So I go by Tony, and I'm vice president over at SKC. But before that, I kind of built the hydrology program over there, or co-developed the hydrology program. So I have been running this internship for about 16 years now, in collaboration with the tribe and the community. So this is the first time I've been asked to come present, though I've been here to ask for data collection permits and things over the years. So this is nice. So I'm going to try to cram a lot into this because it's not just 1 year. All right. So I'm going to do that. So just like it says here, we're 16 years of community engaged participation that's been going on. I'm the PI on the grant. This has been multiple NSF grants in a row. And so Cody Sifford is the co-PI, but he had a class to teach, so he just ran out. So I'm going to do my best to try to fill in for his part. And then Ian has joined us the last couple of years as a mentor. So, and there's various SKC or CSKT mentors and SKC mentors that are not here that we have had over the years. And last year we worked with Doer, and this year we'll work with Doer again. So, okay, so we're community centered, tribally focused. You guys can read this. We try to, incorporate Indigenous knowledge and Western knowledge, but basically what we do is we go to the community and we say, what do you want? So when Tony Incashola said, hey, we want to know something more about berries, service berries, and so forth, that's what we researched for like 3 years. And we did everything from pollinators that Janine worked on, to soils, to, all kinds of tree cover and everything. When someone from the tribe wanted to know something about blue camas, that's what we did. We went and we researched blue camas, and we did that for several years as well. So this has been going on for, like I said, 16 years. I think I have now about 400 student research projects that we've been working on over the time. But it's either some project that's going on at SKC that already has tribal approval or is being worked on at the college, or we're working directly with tribal divisions. That's how we've always worked this. And we have a sister that's in Minnesota as well. So we work with some of the tribes in Minnesota and Duluth and elsewhere. So we have mixed methods that we do. We're community-based participatory. So we're basically saying to the community, what do you want? And then we go do that. We do employ Indigenous research methods. And on day one, when I meet with the students, that's one thing that we teach is kind of like how to do Indigenous research methods and what research ethics are, both from the standard Western side, and then we talk about all the missing things that are in there when we start to talk about Indigenous research methods and how to actually work with tribal and rural communities. So they're mentored through the whole process. And it's not just, hey, you're going to come to a lab and you're going to sit someplace. It is, you're going to come and we're going to help. They're going to design the project so that they can help the community. And so they get the entire research process from the beginning to the end. And how we do this is really consistent with what the American Indian College Fund has suggested that we use for research processes. And because of the way we do this, and it's just highly sought after. And so we have a lot of diversity as well. 47% Native American, 76% underrepresented, 28% older than 30. A lot of parents, 26%, and 58% are female or non-binary. This year alone, we were only filling 9 spots, and we had 238 applicants that Ian and Cody and I had to sift through to find the 9 that we were going to select. So it's a very competitive internship. Like I said, the 3 sites, one's here on the reservation, one's at Zagaigon, which is in Duluth, and the other one is Big River, which is in Twin Cities. We work with the St. Anthony Falls lab there and with several University of Minnesota professors. Student products, what do they produce? They produce blogs that they have to do regularly throughout the week. They produce scientific posters that they have to present at a conference. They do these 2-minute little video kind of like elevator speeches that they do. And we have copies of all of those things and we can share them as well. We started doing the 2-minute videos. I think it was last year or the year before we started doing the 2-minute videos. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ian to talk a little bit.
Ian Isaiah McCrahu. As you know, I'm at Sailor Scootney College Extension. And also, as you know, Sailor Scootney College Extension, all of our projects are designed with the tribe's goals and values in mind, and how to help the tribes in management, especially around grassland restoration, aquatic invasive species, and food system, food sovereignty. But so I've been asked to kind of help build on what Tony's kind of showing you here, but about these different products. And what I wanted to show with this slide was just how it's not really, you know, that they aren't just products. These outcomes are true student-led research. I have the project for them, but I allow them to really take full reign and create their own hypotheses and run from there and really develop that experimental design and research question hypotheses design. So I'm just gonna, I think, till we go on to, I wanted to show just kind of some of the products on the website itself. So I was gonna, from here, take us to the actual SLAR 2025 page that actually has a lot of the posters, presentations, and the 2-minute lightning talks that Tony was talking about. This image here is actually Lower Flathead down by the Bison Range, and this is one of the projects we've been working on, is trying to how do we manage this flowering rush. And through this aerial imagery, you can really see flowering rush and the infestation across this riparian zone. So this is a very important project for us. Let's see if I click here, right there, that'll get you a link. There we go.
Did you go?
So there were six students last year. This year we have 4, so I'm going to take on 2 students this year, and we're going to be mostly focusing on the Eurasian water milfoil in the Pablo Reservoir, but there's other things that they might take on. But I just kind of wanted to walk through some of the products and from last year's REU. So here's our group up at Glacier. They start the REU experience up at Glacier. Getting to really connect and bond that way, I think, is an important piece of that.
Can you see a picture? I don't have that.
Can I see?
Go down to share.
I got a canoe and the overgrowth.
Here.
Yep, that way.
That look better? Okay. So you can see at the top here, they've got the different groups, but our group here, 2025, here's the group picture starting in Glacier. They start and really get a chance to come together as a group and learn from each other. And that's where Tony really integrates a lot of what's going to happen logistically. So I just really wanted to walk through some of the products and kind of just highlight some of the things that we've done. Alex is one of our Sailor Scootney College students, and he worked with the hydrology program. So I'm not completely up to date on his project, but here's Alex.
he contributed his poster, 2-minute lightning talk and presentation. Also Alice Moss she worked with the hydrology program as well. And then, so that picture that you saw on Flowering Rush, this is the project that Ant worked on. So you guys may recognize Ant Lichtenberg. And he came in and wanted to kind of ask the question of, oops, it'll go. Maybe. It did on my computer too. Hopefully.
Our link is not working. We apologize.
This has always been kind of funny. Let me maybe just skip past Ant and see if, so Eleanor asked some really good questions about our grassland restoration project, where we're looking at trying to manage and control some of the invasive annual grasses. And we're using indaziflam, which is a really potent herbicide that can last in the system for a long time. So Eleanor was interested in kind of what are those soil effects of the indaziflam. I was hoping to be able to show you guys a poster for each one of these, but for some reason it's not behaving here. But Eleanor was able to really dig deeply into soil carbon, soil pH, and microbes, and how indaziflam might be infecting those microbes. And she actually found that ultimately that particular herbicide is not affecting our microbiome as much as we may think. So hopefully it's a decent tool for us to be able to use in our grassland restoration. Jennifer was part of the hydrology program as well, so I didn't work with her project, but I remember she was analyzing some of the water influence out of the Jocko Spring area. And then Nico, I was really excited about Nico's question because the Island Oasis Restoration Project that I've been working on for 10 years now is trying to establish our native plants in kind of these small little islands. So that way they could help with pollinators and creating wildlife habitat and things like that. So Nico took a deeper look at the climate impacts and the survivability of the plugs. So he really asked some deep questions into what kind of impacts are we having on our native plugs and the survivability of those plugs. Let's see, I'm not too familiar.
Now you're in the Minnesota.
Yeah, I think I'm into the Minnesota. Oh, here we are. There's a go again there. So yeah, that just kind of highlights, I think, some of the work that SKC Extension has done with the 3 students that we took on. And then next, we were going to kind of highlight the story map piece of things and how they kind of tell that story, because just collecting the data, right, is only one piece of the puzzle. And so actually being able to tell that story and relay that story in a really positive way, I think is an important piece of the story map piece here.
So this is where Cody would have presented, because he teaches all of our GIS and he does our unmanned aerial flight programs over at the college. So he works really good with the students on kind of digital storytelling. And one of the new tools that's available for us, for educators, is this thing called Esri Story Maps. And so it used to be where students would go and they would do research, and then they might bring a poster. You might see that poster once, but the community, the elders, the general population doesn't typically go to those science places to be able to see the posters. And they also, you may or may not read some scientific journal article, right? It might be something that somebody sends to you, but you're not out there perusing it most of the time. Some of us are, but not everybody. And so what this does is it's a new way for us to present materials to a more general audience. And this is used even at the tribal level. You guys have it for some of your wetland projects that Dennis has worked on and other people have worked on. And so there are these things where you can slide through things. I'm not sure if it's going to work today or not, so I'm going to try to zip through this. Yeah, it worked just fine at ours. I don't know why it's not working over here. So a story map is this. You can include maps, you can include photos, tools, whatever. There's a lot of things that you can include. And so the RU uses this ArcGIS story map. And I want to get to one of these. So this is what it looks like for us is when you go to our page, it'll have all of these story maps, and you can usually click on one of these. So I'm going to try to click on one of these directly and see if it works this time. And if so, I might have to share. Yeah, and there we go. We got one. All right, so we're working this way. Can you guys see this or do I need to stay? Yeah, okay, so go ahead and share that. All right, so here is a story map from one of the students, contamination on the Pablo Aquifer. And instead of just being a flat poster, what this is you've got this introduction, the student can talk about the research project. There's these tabs that going across the top, but you can also just continue to scroll down and you'll get every one of those tabs if you go down. But you can skip right to an abstract, to a background, the methods, their results, their discussions, further recommendations and whatnot. And so students can do this. And then within this, when you're standing there at a poster talking to a student, that 5 minutes or that 1/2 hour that you have, you can actually find out something about the student, where they're from, what tribe they represent, what their cultural values are. You can sit there and talk to them, but not everybody has the same chance to talk to them. And even if you're all there at the same time, 20 people are vying for the attention of this one student. And so what you can do is you can hit this personal story map and it would go to tell you their story. I would have to share this one again, so I'm not going to do that. But you can go to the actual personal story map. And I guess what I wanted to say is there's more cultural content in story maps. There's more process in story maps. There's more academics. They reference their own universities in story maps. There's just a lot more richer information in the story maps. And so when we send the products back to the TRRB, you all have access to all of these story maps and all of the posters and the personal stories from the students. And, it goes into what they like and what they don't like. So this model has been developed over the last 16 years. And these story maps are just crucial to what we're doing now and how we're doing this. And other REUs across the nation are looking at us and saying, hey, this is what we really need to do. Anyway, there's a bunch of acknowledgements that are on here and grants that I want to do from the NSF. This is our flyer that we do, and these are the actual projects. I'm going to leave that up for you guys to look at if you want to look at, but every one of those would click on, and thank you for your time.
All right, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Tony and Ian. Are your interns paid a stipend or?
Yes, they get $7,000 for 10 weeks. Because of when SKC graduation is and when the dorms shut down at the University of Minnesota, because that's where we end is in Minnesota. The last week we're there, we have to scrunch it down to about a 9-week thing. So now we're doing 9 weeks with 1 week of virtual. So we've already had 2 virtual meetings with the students to try to get them started, kind of jumped into this. And then their first day will be the Monday after our graduation. So it's the 9th, I believe, of June, which is the day before you'll have the next one of these. And I will be getting people off of planes from all over the country, and we'll be in Glacier at the Glacier Institute in West Glacier for a week. And then they will either go back to Minnesota or they will come here. But they're all paid $7,000 and they're given housing and we give them mileage and we give them, they get a whole bunch of things by doing this. And that's why it's so competitive too, is, 200 and some applications to be able to do this.
So in regards to the SPAW research, item 1, the investigating contamination in the Pablo Aquifer system, how do you get that information out to the public? I mean, I think that's information people would be interested.
So there's 2 things. Number 1 is we have the website that has everything and we give it back to the tribe. But the other thing is when we're advertising this, people can see it as well. And the tribe itself, because this was a doer project, so they can distribute it however they want. But it's really nice because the student made the story map about the research. And so you just give someone a link and they can just go right to it and see the story map and see all the methods, the results, all the pictures, everything that you're interested in is right there on the link. You don't have to wait for somebody to go unroll a poster and put it up someplace, right? The information is at your computer. Whoever's got a computer can get that. And one other thing is we don't release all information. So for instance, when we were researching huckleberries, we knew exactly where the huckleberry sites were that we were researching, but those geocodes did not get sent out to the public. We might just say, hey, we're going to do something up Hill Roaring, and we would put a big old dot up there, right? But we wouldn't say exactly where it is. So some things the tribe or tribal entities say this can't be released either because of cultural or because of, data sovereignty. And so we will kind of massage the data, I guess, so that that information does not go out.
How many of our tribal students have participated?
Over the years, several. Yeah, I don't have an exact number for you. I would think it's probably 30 to, yeah, right around 30, I would guess, is of our tribal students have participated.
Any other questions?
And you should realize too, like we had 9 students this year, but only 4 came here, and the other 5 go to the University of Minnesota, and they take tribal people as well and non-tribal. But I'm just counting like from ours, right? So we only have we're a sister part of this. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tony. Ian?
Thank you. I'm
All right, so our next presenter is Akasha Face. She is on a project collaborator on, or project team member. And the PI on this is Chuck Casper, who's really busy. He was unable to make it. Their project is titled Strengthening Ecological and Ecosystem Diversity and Restoration. They are from the MPG Ranch, and they focus their work at the Bison Range. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I was about to say I have a very loud voice, so I will try to. Yeah, so thank you so much. So yeah, so as Matea said, so I'm Akasha Feist. I'm an associate professor at the University of Montana. And Chuck Casper is both at MPG Ranch, which is in the Bitterroot, and then also a PhD student at the University of Montana. And then we have another key personnel who is Mandy Slate, who's at Ohio State University. And first, I would like to say thank you to all of you for organizing this. We are in what I would like to say our first year. We actually started last year in setting up these plots and this data that I'm going to show you, but we are, and I think it's today, our first day of data collection is actually happening. My crew is out there, our crews are out along the different sites, so it's very timely that today is the day. So I hopefully can work through this. So our project, I really love a good acronym, Strengthening Ecological Ecosystem Diversity and Restoration. So what is the goal and what is kind of the overarching components here? So we want to increase forb diversity in Western Montana grassland systems through seed-based restoration actions. And in this case, I'm going to be referring to forbs as those flowering plants that are not grasses. So we're trying to increase the number of flowering plants in the grasslands that have been kind of declining over the years. So benefits to improving this diversity through this hopefully our goals through restoration actions. We really want to kind of help pollinators defend against invasive species, and that was already really great to hear about indaziflam. That's something we think a lot about. Aid in soil and nutrient retention, additional forage, and then so much more. And part of that is why I'm excited to be here and to discuss that as well. So seed-based restoration, what we're kind of focused on is the application of putting seeds on the landscape. And as a seed-based restoration professor, we often use these slides saying we put a lot of seeds on the landscape, a lot of money is put towards collecting seeds, but our seeding efforts are not always successful. I have here a couple of papers saying that we can actually be less than 10% successful. And so that and there's a lot of bottlenecks that we're encountering. So, so kind of thinking about it in a kind of different way, in a creative way, is part of seed-based restoration, kind of enhancing and getting that success rate higher than that 10%, which is not very high. And kind of incentive for this was also how much seed. So how much seed. So on the left, you'll see seed rates. This is a paper by Nancy Shackelford. I think there's 80 of us. So we had however many seeds you put on the landscape, how much success, and then you can see the more seeds you put on the landscape, the more success, and that kind of varies on how dry the systems are. But something that stood out to us was that over time, you might get initial success, but then you get a degradation, like you lose success over time. If you're an annual, perennial, woody, they all kind of decrease. So we wanted to kind of address that as well. So not just how many seeds we put on the landscape, but really kind of look at this over time. And as some of us like to think about baking, I also like to think about it in this way as well. Our restoration actions are how these ingredients that we put together, right? And so taking different components and maybe adding a little more of this, a little bit of that, we're going to get these different outcomes. And so kind of what I'm going to be presenting today is a series of those, and then hopefully more growing as we kind of progress as a project.
You have samples?
I know. No, and I have done this before, right before lunch. I've used this in other presentation. That was not the best idea. We do have some cookies in the back. So yes, we did not plan that. Oh, thank you. But yeah, so kind of thinking about that, so from the data perspective, but also kind of that, like that restoration and those different ingredients that we're putting together. So we've seen this before, but kind of taking that, using seeds, and kind of putting them into a different components, et cetera, and really trying to increase that forb diversity, that flowering plant diversity that we are seeing decline across the West. So kind of the rest of the bulk of the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go into the kind of nitty gritty of what we're actually doing. And so to start, this is, we have 3 different primary field sites. So we have MPG Ranch, which is in the Bitterroot, Bandy Ranch, which is outside of Ovando, and then the Bison Range. And for obvious reasons, the CSKT Bison Range is where I'm going to be spending most of my time talking about today. But I wanted to kind of give that kind of those 3 different sites. We were hoping that we could kind of learn a little bit more about these Western Montana as well. So the experimental layout. So here, this is just the Bison Range. You can kind of see where our sites are. On the left, you'll see that little square is where our actual field sites are. And then to the right is how the experimental design that we have. So we have 6, we call them blocks. So 6 different replicates that are all the same from one another so that we can have those different repeat sampling. So within that, and we did not use indaziflam. We used another kind of quick herbicide. Oh, and I forgot to mention Peter Bugoni is someone we're working very, very closely with on this. I forgot to mention that. And so within each block, so we did an initial kind of site prep. And so this was mid-fall of 2025. And what we did was we raked, we tried to get as much of the kind of invasive seed bank to release, and we did a little bit of herbicide to just kind of set a nice seed bed prep. And then we implemented our treatments in the late fall of 2025, and we wanted to put these in to allow them to be underneath the snow that we didn't necessarily get this winter, but that was the goal. But we wanted to put them in. And so what we did is we seeded with 47 species. And I think in our proposal, we said there was potential for 80. We were a little lofty. I still am pretty happy that we got 47 species to seed. On the left, you can see the bucket, and I think that's so pretty looking at all those different seeds. And they were broadcast seed on the landscape. So they were placed on the surface and then with the goal of that snow kind of compressing them. And kind of thinking about seeding rates, we had a no seeding, a 1,000 seeds per meter squared, and then a 333 seeds per meter squared that we will seed 3 times. We also know that, there's potential for different responses given different moisture levels. So we put in, there's drought structures. So you can see on the left here under Hoover et al., these are slatted structures that reduce a certain % of the rain. So if we get an average rainfall, that underneath that and that kind of plot will have less than 30% of that average rainfall. And on the right is us putting up those. And I would like to give, thank you. I would like to give Chuck credit for almost all of the photos in here. So I want to make sure. So yeah, so those drought structures are paired, and so we can see how do the seeds respond under drought conditions or in the current ambient conditions. We also know when you're putting out seeds, I like to, we often joke, and it's not necessarily funny, but we are putting out a buffet of food particles for the rodents. So we want to make sure that we are not, we did try to dampen them into the soil, but we are testing that, right? So we put small little rodent exclosures out. Those are paired, no paired, so we can see if we get really great growth in the rodent exclosures versus the outside. There might be something there. And then I did not take a single photo, so we don't have photos for this one, but we also are looking at that invasive interaction. So we weed subplots as well. So we really are looking at drought, rodents, and weeding to look at these different interactions to say we put these seeds on the landscape, who's doing the best. And then we have our kind of controls that we're just monitoring over time. And this is what that looks like. So here's our plots. Remember, they're replicated 6 times. Okay, so I kind of quickly moved past that. Happy to answer any questions. Kind of our general plan right now is we do have ongoing soil moisture under the drought structures and in the open to see are we actually droughting, but also what is the drought, what is the soil moisture. We want to be, we know these winters can be tough. We want to be respectful. We don't want to leave those slats up. So they do get removed with the snow before snow. So those aren't up in the winter. So less chance for kind of breaking. And then we're going to weed the subplots annually to kind of take away that weeding pressure. And then this is what they're doing starting right now is that seedling monitoring. That's often a bottleneck. So we're going to be monitoring the seedlings at the very young stage, saying who's there, and then coming back and monitoring adults to see of all those that we planted, who's coming, and then we're going to do that annually, the plan is. Many expected outcomes. I mean, our ultimate goal is to understand, improve that for that flowering plant diversity, improve pollination, et cetera. But when we have 47 species, we want to assess which species do the best overall under these different treatments. Are some species going to do better under drought? Are some more immune to rodent pressure with invasive or not plant pressure, and looking at that over time. And the ultimate goal is we don't want that reduction in success that we saw in that big graph, like understanding how to kind of maintain and kind of increase and improve that. And really kind of understand these results for future seed-based restoration and land management. But this last point I think is a very important one, and I don't want to zoom past it, is these plots are very big. So if you can see on the bottom, it's 0 to 60 meters. And then I think it says 65, 0 to 60, and then 10 to 20. Our different treatments are really small. So we left room for additional questions. Are there certain plants that we didn't plant that should be planted there for whatever reason? So this is a part that we had the big push to get that initial study in that I just talked about. But then we have it and are excited to build in what do we want to add, adjust, learn, and grow. And we have that space to kind of ask those questions. And with that, so this is primarily funded by MPG Ranch. I want to say thanks to them. Bison Range person has been great. University of Montana, and everyone actually has been just wonderful to work with, and that's what I have.
Questions?
Yeah.
Any of them?
Sorry, it might be a stupid question, but 47 plants out of
Yeah.
X amount you guys thought you were, are all those plants like natural to our area and they won't take over some of the other plants? That
Oh, no, that's a great question. That's, yes, we were very careful. The list is, yeah, there's no, everything that has been found at the Bison Range. Yeah. We didn't necessarily collect them at the Bison Range, but they were collected within the region, or if they were grown, they were very close by. Yeah, that's a great question because we don't want to cause any problems. Yeah.
Then did any of
Yeah.
your plants bloom this spring already? Have you guys seen
So-
any flowers out there?
So we're getting that's what they're testing. Yeah, I'm gonna, on my drive back, I'm gonna call the crew and find out. So we're looking at, they're gonna be in pretty small stages right now. But hopefully, we did see some seedlings coming up. And so hopefully they're gonna be a little bit bigger, but we don't know yet. So that's where I'm saying it's funny that today's the day that we're collecting data. So I don't know, but I have high hopes. It was a really interesting winter. We were prepared for snow to kind of keep them throughout the winter, not let the rodents get them. We didn't get that snow that we thought. And so we were starting to see, it was at our MPG site, but just anecdotally, we were starting to see some of them germinate in January, which is like, they should be under snow, right? And then some of our sites were drier than others. So it's going to be an interesting year. And that's why we're excited about that time. Because if we have so many species, some might do well right away. And then some might be like, not for me this year. I have other time to like wait out a few years. That's our goal. But yeah, I don't have any data just yet. Next year. Well, yeah, thank you.
All your seeds, you did germination tests on them to start with, so you.
Yeah, we did viability tests. Yeah, great. Just to make sure we weren't just putting out
You
morsels.
say you had evidence of less than 10% actual production.
In general restoration projects, yeah. In a lot of that, and that's across the West, so this is very dry systems, but even, here in Montana, that success rate is often really low. For whatever reasons, maybe you have drought, maybe you have rodents, maybe you have weeds. So we tried to pick the big ones that were the biggest pressures and then try to release them from those pressures, but yeah.
And you measured that over just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because those seeds could sit there and germinate another year.
I love that. That's the goal, right? So the goal is we just put them in the fall. So this spring, we're hoping for good recruitment, but at the same time, because we have this diversity of seeds, some might need 3 years. And so if we wait and we see that, we're going to keep monitoring every year to make sure, because it might take that right condition for some of those species under the drought or not. Yeah.
All the study that you have found any other infectious weeds that we might not know about?
Oh. We haven't found any new ones, but we sure have found some that when we're weeding that are there. But I don't think we found any new ones. And we have been working with Peter closely to say, hey, this is the ones we're working with, and he hasn't shown any alarms like we're dealing with your mustards and your leafy spurge and all those. So nothing new. Hopefully. Yeah, we'll let you, we are again working closely with Peter, but in our collection, that's part of where we wanted to make sure the seeds we're putting on the landscape are already there. They're not new to the system. Yeah, for this exact reason. Yeah.
Neat study.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh,
You're not done.
I'm
One more question.
Going to Danielle's question, your seed stock.
Yeah.
Did I get the impression that you were taking seed stock and using the same seed stock in 3 different locations?
We are. Yeah.
Are you concerned about us fish people didn't think that hatcheries were a great idea at one point in time. So we went willy-nilly with a stock everywhere. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, great question. And we definitely talked about that because you have like the cultivars, same idea, right? With the moving, we definitely talked about that. So a little bit. But what, again, because the region, like that dispersal, maybe they couldn't disperse that far, but we're not super far out of their dispersal. Depending on the species, I want to put that little asterisk there. Some don't disperse that far, but some absolutely could. But yeah, that's where we tried to get as close as possible if it was a seed stock. And we tried to minimize that also as much as possible. So yeah, great question. And that's something too where as they do grow, we do want to collect samples and we want to kind of watch them as they grow. And they're in these kind of contained sections. So yeah, great question. Okay, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Maggie. So our next presenter is online. She is a former SKC student in the life science department. She, I believe, is in Oregon currently. Her project, and I apologize if I mispronounce, it is titled Biogenic Amine Levels in Lake Trout with Different Storage Conditions.
Yeah.
Maggie, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, let me see if I can get that. Is it popping up?
Yes.
And then, okay, perfect. Okay, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, so I'm measuring biogenic amines in lake trout, and most of this talk is going to be about developing a method to measure and extract those. So just for some background, biogenic amines are organic compounds that are formed by the alteration of amino acids that we just have naturally in our body. The ones that I'm talking about today specifically are putrescine, cadaverine, and histamine. And these are known as decomposition or spoilage chemicals. That's kind of why they have the, nasty names. And these are produced by bacteria that like eat the tissues after something dies. And it's a common problem with improperly stored food. And another reason this is problematic is that these compounds can be kind of toxic. So histamine specifically is associated with histamine fish poisoning, also known as scombroid poisoning. Because of this, it's highly regulated. The FDA has established legal limits of 500 milligrams per kilogram. And then kind of for reference, the average like trout fillet is about 200 grams or 7 ounces. So that can build up kind of quickly in fish samples if they're not stored properly. But putrescine and cadaverine are not regulated and there aren't any legal limits. We don't know a lot about them really, but we do know that they can increase the toxicity of histamine toxicity, so it would make it a little bit more toxic. And it can also react with nitrites in the body and create cancerous nitrosamines. And unfortunately, they're really thermostable, so cooking or processing is ineffective. So once they've been produced in like a food sample, cooking that doesn't get rid of it, it can still be toxic even after you heat it up. So the toxicity pathway specifically is you would like eat fish that's been contaminated with these biogenic amines. And then after, it goes through your intestines, it's digested, those toxic chemicals can travel through the bloodstream and go to your brain and your heart. And so symptoms associated with histamine poisoning is like fever, flushing, you can get rashes, headaches, diarrhea, sweating, and nausea. But in really serious cases, you can have like heart problems. You'll have like chest tightness, difficulty breathing, and like heart palpitations. So it can get pretty serious. And this is important because fish are known to have higher levels of natural histamine than other foods, which is why histamine poisoning is specifically associated with fish. And then storage conditions are really influential in biogenic amine formation. Improper storage is the main cause of histamine accumulation because those bacteria are able to thrive in the higher temperatures. Above 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit is kind of when we see those higher levels, which is a little higher than like typical fridge temperatures. And then toxic doses can vary, and we don't really know a really good like toxic dose. So in sensitive populations like children or like elderly people, it can be between 6 milligrams and 25 milligrams. And then in healthy populations, it's like 75 milligrams. So they're kind of low doses that can end up being toxic if they're built up. And then, so to outline my project, what I wanted to look at specifically was like wild fish from Flathead Lake. So I picked lake trout as a representative species. They're edible, they're similar to other trout species. And because they'd be like just from Flathead Lake, since they'd be like wild, there'd be a little less control than commercially farmed fish, which most data that we have is from commercially farmed fish. So basically, I would have my fish samples. I'd prepare them into little like fish fillets, and I'd store them at room temperature. I'd store them in a fridge, so around that like 37 degrees Fahrenheit, and then frozen. And then every day I'd take a sample from those for 7 days. And then I'm measuring how much biogenic amines are formed over that time period. And then I can use that data to create a like prediction model where we can try and estimate how much biogenic amines would potentially be in that sample if it was stored for this long at this temperature. And we're calling that like a quality or safety estimation model. So in order to do that, there's two main instruments that we're using that I'll go a little bit into. So the first one is accelerated solvent extraction. And that's how we're going to clean up our samples and only get the products that we want out of them. So it's faster, it's more accurate than traditional methods when you just do it by hand. And it takes less solvent than traditional methods, so it's a little like more financially and time saving. And since it's automated, there's less chance of human error. And then the other is gas chromatography mass spectroscopy, or GCMS. And this gives really accurate and precise results. It's used to identify and measure the concentration of chemicals that are in a sample, and it has a huge variety of applications. So it worked pretty perfectly for the goals of this product or project. So accelerated solvent extraction kind of works like a big pressure cooker. So you'll have your samples in your extraction cell and you'll heat it up really hot between 104 and 392 Fahrenheit. And then you'll put it under really high pressure. And the high pressure allows the cell to fill faster. And then the temperature makes it so that the solvent mixes really well with your sample. And then after that, it's extracted into the collection vial, so you'll have a clean sample with only the chemicals that you want. So it works really nicely if you're working with something like tissue that has all sorts of proteins and fats and stuff in it. And then gas chromatography mass spectroscopy has two main aspects. So the first part is the gas chromatography, and you have your sample heated and injected into a column. And it separates into different components based on weight, which travel through the column through here. And then after that, the separate components enter the mass spectrometry aspect, which measures the mass of each of those components. And after that, it uses those two measurements, so the time it took to travel through the column and then its mass, to identify what specific chemical that is. And it also gives a relative abundance, so we also can estimate the concentrations. And then, so the next step is we're able to figure out what instruments we want, but we have to work with the chemicals a little bit because they're really tiny. So derivatization is altering chemical structure so we can enhance the GCMS detection. Without changing anything, cadaverine we detected at around 4 minutes, and you can see that right here. But that's really early in the GC process, and forcing the machine to analyze it can damage the instrument because all of these small particles are flying through so quickly, it can be kind of bad for it. So we needed to figure out how to make cadaverine and putrescine heavier so that it takes longer to travel through the column and we can measure it without putting the machine at risk. And that's what this next slide is here, is these are the derivatized compounds. So as you can see, instead of being, over here around 4 minutes, cadaverine is picked up around 7. And then we confirmed via our internal library that this was the right compound, and it's a lot bigger. And then same with putrescine, it's a little bit before 7 minutes, and we also confirmed that with our internal library. So we were able to see that our derivatization method worked, and we can still pick up these compounds. The next step was to make sure that we actually could process these from a tissue sample and get the compounds of interest, because biogenic amines are found in decaying tissue, so they have to be extracted before any accurate analysis can be done. So to test that aspect, we used Harbor Seal that we had stored in our fridge from another project. And I chose that because it's a similar composition to fish tissue, and to make sure that our method worked before I actually obtained any of the fish samples. And the goal of this aspect was to make sure that our product was clean. We wanted to figure out how much changes we have to do, and then if there are biogenic amines present, are they retained in the final product? Because if we can't get them in the final product, we're not going to be able to analyze anything. And these pictures here, this shows before extraction. You've got typical like tissue samples, all your fats and your lipids in there. And then after extraction, we kind of ended up with a little bit of lipids here at the bottom, but we were able to clean a lot out and just end up with solvent and our chemicals. So these are the GCMS seal results. We were able to pick up cadaverine and putrescine for both of them, and we can see concentration differences because there's a big gap in abundance here. We did have a little bit of fats that also came through, so that indicates we need to maybe clean up our method a little bit more. And then similarly to putrescine, we had that detected after the 6-minute mark, and those concentrations were able to be picked up. It's a little less clear with putrescine, but this is still part of like the preliminary aspect, so we're working on that. And since we confirmed that we can visualize our biogenic amines, the next step is making sure we can estimate how much are in the samples. And the next step for that is building a calibration curve. A calibration curve is used to identify like measurable limits of a sample. So you can use it to determine unknown concentrations and then compare that unknown concentration to known concentrations. So this is an example calibration curve. So we have a bunch of known concentrations. So basically when we measure our unknown sample, if it pops up, between 30 parts per million and 40 parts per million, we can kind of estimate, oh, maybe it's, around 35 parts per million. So it works really effectively to measure concentrations that we don't know because because we didn't put them in there. So building those calibration curves, this is our preliminary cal curves, only higher concentrations were measurable. That's between 50 milligrams per microliter and 500 milligrams per microliter. It's still way lower than like a toxic dose, so we're still able to pick up a lot of those higher doses. We just don't have as a large of a scale as I would have preferred, but we still can see visible abundance differences based on concentration. So we have our concentration differences and our abundance differences that correlate with those concentrations. So we are able to see concentration differences, which is really good. So overall, the point of this project is to develop a method to extract biogenic amines from tissue samples and then visualize those different amounts on a GCMS. So we confirmed that we're able to build a preliminary concentration curve between 50 milligrams and 500 milligrams per microliter, and that there is a positive relationship between concentration and abundance. And then also with the accelerated solvent extraction, putrescine and cadaverine are retained in a sample after extraction, and that concentration differences can be seen even after extraction, but that our current method doesn't filter all of the things that we want out. There still are some lipids retained. So for the next steps, we'd like to modify the current solvent composition to try and remove some of those fats, and then verify that all of our biogenic amines are still detectable on the GC. And after that, we want to process the lake trout samples and ensure a reproducible calibration curve on the GC with realistic concentrations and that we can test our unknown concentrations. And then the next step is to analyze the results and create our quality estimation model to hopefully learn more about the accumulation of those putrescine and cadaverines in fish samples. So I'd like to thank the University of Alaska Fairbanks. They're the one that funded my grant for this, as well as the Natural Resource Department and the KSKT Tribal Research Review Board, the Blue Bay Campground for providing the fish samples, as well as the SKC Life Science Department, and then my PI, Clay Comstock. And thanks to all of you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Questions, anybody? You made mention that there were toxic levels that were different for different, was it ages or children and women and?
Yeah, the toxic doses can vary. So, and like a average, like grown adult male, it's like 75 milligrams. But yeah, for like children or older people or immunocompromised people, typically that threshold is a little lower.
I'm asking, how do you determine it's toxic? Is it, they die?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of the ways that this is determined is just when they start to show symptoms of that scombroid poisoning. So when they have the like flushing and diarrhea and that sort of thing. There are high, like very high doses that can cause death. But those aren't really the doses that mine referenced. Those are just the 75 and then like 6 to 25 milligrams, just specifically when you're suffering from the negative symptoms.
Any other question? Our fish guy.
Your target fish is flathead lake trout. Are there any, and the reason I ask this question is histamine is more related to ocean fish. But there's other two like you, I don't know what the hell it is. Do you have any cases of this particular outcome that Michael was suggesting from lake trout in the lake?
So not that I have heard of like personally, like locally. This was like my theme, like senior capstone. So I just had to put together like a research project, and I found a bunch of papers. I found one specifically talking about the quality estimation model using rainbow trout. But that was like they had just bought it from the store. And that is what initially piqued my interest, because I was like, oh, well, we have, we have rainbow trout around here. So it was like a couple papers that I saw, and I just wanted to see if my results would look different, and if that could be, due to like location, or that they would be wild fish versus commercially farmed fish. So a lot of this is just exploratory.
Well, I don't see any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so we are on our last presentation. This is Fiona Grubin. She is a project coordinator from the Office of Rural Healthcare and public or health educator at Montana State University. Her presentation is the senior and long-term care assessment of CSKT.
Thank you, Matea, and thanks everyone. Excited to be here today, share about the work we've been doing. Here's a brief overview of what I'll share with you. I'm going to try to explain where this project came from and why we're doing it, talk about our process, highlight a few of the results, and then talk about our next steps. But first I'll introduce myself and where I work. We have a very long, confusing title, but we are at MSU. We're the Montana Office of Rural Health and Area Health Education Center. We work across Montana to support health and healthcare. This is me. I studied psychology at MSU, and I also have my research focus, Master of Science in Public Health and Social and Behavioral Interventions. And before working at MSU, I spent about 5 years doing research coordination for Center for Indigenous Health. Mainly worked with tribes in Arizona, Minnesota, and Oklahoma. And on the side, outside of work, I'm also a PhD candidate in MSU's Indigenous and Rural Health program. But what I'm presenting to you today is a project done under a contract from Montana DPHHS. So that's our state public health agency. And that's a very large organization. They have a division of senior and long-term care that is trying to engage in a statewide assessment of what's the current landscape of senior and long-term care. And that was motivated in part by the fact that Montana and the entire country is aging very quickly. We're seeing the baby boomer generation is aging now. Some people are calling this a silver tsunami, but basically that means we are going to see a lot more need in the area of senior and long-term care in the years to come. And our office has worked previously with DPHHS, and so their Office of American Indian Health had asked that the contract come to our office to basically do a slice of this statewide needs assessment. And we have been tasked with making sure that tribes and tribal members in Montana are included in that assessment. So that is where this work is coming from. This is a bit of a new position for me, being kind of like a go-between between the state, but I've learned a lot. And this is actually funded through the state's Money Follows the Person initiative. And I know that DPHHS is interested in using this assessment to inform their work in the next legislative session, as well as whether they should apply for a tribal Money Follows the Person program. But that's kind of a little bit about where this is coming from. So I've actually been doing this work with all of the reservation communities in Montana, as well as the Little Shell Tribe and 2 of the urban Indian health centers. And I've been using the same general process with each community. So it was really important to us to begin by obtaining approval to conduct this work. So we start by going to each community and asking, hey, the state would like us to do this. Would you like us to come do it? Because if you don't want us to, I'm not going to. But then once we have those approvals, the state asks us to host listening sessions. So we go do those. I built in a process of review on the back end that I'll talk more about in our next steps, but it's really important to us that every tribe and every community has the opportunity to determine what information is shared from the assessment back with the state. So that's just the larger context and process of what we're trying to do. And I'll tell you a little bit about what it looked like here in CSKT. So to get started here, we first approached you all actually about a year ago in April 2025 and just shared about this contract and what the state was asking us to do. And you very kindly referred us to the TRRB. So we submitted an application there as well as to the SKC IRB, since this is human subjects research. And the TRRB connected us with the Director of Tribal Health and Executive Director of Tribal Member Services for some additional discussion and permission. So we shared again with them about what we'd been asked to do in the outline for our process. And we talked about how best to complete this work with the tribes. They asked us to add 2 things to our process, which we were happy to do. The first is that we stipulated that when this is completed, that we will transfer all of the data back to the CSKT as the data belong to you, and we will delete it on our end. And we also added a process of member checking, where we bring the results back to the participants and review the data with them as well. So the results that I'll talk about in a minute have already been member checked. And once we got that initial approval, the tribal health director was very helpful in connecting us to some points of contact at tribal health that we could collaborate with. And that was super important because I'm not a community member here. I'm not a tribal member, so I don't know who to come talk to here. And I can't say enough good things about my collaborators at Tribal Health. They were really helpful. We worked together to revise some of the questions that we had prepared just so that they would be better understood by the community members. So we worked with the TRRB and the IRB to get those approved. And once that was ready to go, we scheduled the listening sessions. That's what the state had asked us to do, so that their contract was a bit prescriptive. But listening sessions are basically focus group discussions. And we start each session by explaining kind of a bit of what I just shared about why we're doing this, what we're doing, and how that information will be used. We did an informed consent process to make sure everyone understood what they were agreeing to participate in. And I also collected their contact information so that I could get back in touch with them to review those results. We recorded the discussion and basically just facilitate a conversation about senior and long-term care to learn about the services, the needs, the challenges, and what people are experiencing. Participants for these listening sessions could be any adults who have some connection to this topic of senior and long-term care, which I find that most people have a connection to this topic, but we did try to focus on elders and older adults themselves, family caregivers, and providers who work a lot with this population. We talked a lot with my collaborators at Tribal Health. We had this 20-person cap based on what the state had given us to do. And that was also an ethical cap. That's what we had approved through the TRRB and the IRB. So we wanted to be really careful not to end up having to turn anybody away. I was very grateful that they knew people to invite and how to do it in a good way that would make sure everyone could participate. We gave all the participants a gift card for their time, and we were able to provide some snacks and some water. I really couldn't have done it though without Tribal Health, so thank you. And we ended up hosting 2 group listening sessions in early January of this year. One was provider focus at Tribal Health in St. Ignatius, and the other one was more community focus, and that took place at the Ronan Senior Citizen Center. And across both sessions, we heard from 10 total participants. Once we had hosted these sessions, I processed those data by creating transcripts of the audio recording. So all of our data is text. That's why I have a hard time being brief. I'm sorry. But the results include primarily direct quotes because I was really just wanting to convey exactly what people said. So trying not to really put a spin on it, but just really just organize it so that it was easy to digest. Once I had that summary of results produced, I started reaching out back to the participants to do that member checking. So between February and April of this year, I reached out to them to talk through the results. I made at minimum 3 attempts to contact each person using all the different information they had provided to me. I tried different times of the week to see what might work best. And I was ultimately able to get back in touch with 6 of the participants. So I was pretty happy that it was more than half. And they all appreciated, and some of them had a few things that they wanted to add. So we added those in there. I don't have time today to describe all the results, so I'm just going to highlight a few. But this slide is a comprehensive list of all the results that are summarized in the report for CSKT that is currently with the TRRB. And these results are organized around 4 categories of senior and long-term care services, challenges, needs, and experiences. So from the services side, these are some of the findings that I wanted to highlight today. We heard about some of the senior long-term care services in this community. One of them is the Retreat, which is an assisted living facility owned and operated by CSKT. And eligible tribal members who do not need 24-hour skilled nursing care, but who do need some access to supportive services to complete their activities of daily living can be referred through their primary care provider to the Retreat. And Tribal Health can also help explore placement elsewhere if the Retreat is not an option. But we heard great things about the Retreat. The staff who work there are so proud of not just providing basic care to the residents, but really trying to promote a sense of community and well-being for them. People also talked to us about CSKT Elderly Services, another tribal program for eligible tribal member elders who meet specific age and sometimes income requirements. Individuals have to apply to receive these services, but there's a huge variety of programs, everything from personal caregiving to support with snow plowing, providing food, firewood, basic home repairs, and more. A lot of participants shared about how this program has been really helpful to them. And the report has more details on how they wish the program could be expanded even more to provide even more services. But participants shared too that it's really common in their community for family to be caregivers. So we might not think of that as a formal senior and long-term care service, but I think that's a really important part. People talked about as well how they had a lot of pride and joy in caring for their loved ones as they age. As this one person said that she was able to care for her relatives and they lived until they died. We also asked people about whether these senior and long-term care services on and near the reservation are able to provide culturally relevant care. And some facilities like the retreat do regularly accommodate and incorporate cultural care requests, but participants describe this as kind of a mixed bag across the reservation, and that especially some of those non-tribal facilities are known for being a little more dismissive of culture. But I think they were also hopeful that they're seeing more people start to try to advocate for that kind of care. They also shared with us that many of the senior and long-term care services that are run through CSKT are available only to CSKT tribal members, but that this reservation in particular, because a lot of people are drawn to SKC, does have a high proportion of tribal members from other tribal nations. So we noticed that might be one place where those folks may be falling through the cracks. On the challenges side, just a couple of challenges I wanted to highlight today are staffing for long-term care and then historical trauma and also contemporary abuse. And participants actually told us about how these challenges are connected. So they talked about the intergenerational trauma that a lot of elders carry because of what they endured during colonization and the era of federal Indian boarding schools. And this quote really illustrates here that these elders have fear because in their minds, if they go to nursing homes, they disappear because they grew up in a time when you went to a facility that was run by white people, you didn't get treated well and you got disappeared or your family was never allowed to see you. So I think it's just important to know there's this extra layer of fear for some of these elders when it comes to long-term care facilities. And then today participants shared how they've also heard experiences and reports of abuse in long-term care facilities that unfortunately just really compound that fear and create a pretty strong resistance that seems very valid of not wanting to go to those facilities that aren't known for treating Native people very kindly. But when they talked about these challenges, they connected it to staffing the long-term care workforce because obviously, because of this, many elders prefer to be cared for by other Native people who they know understand what they've been through and maybe even know them and their family. But staffing is a huge challenge across Montana. And even as this quote illustrates, someone thinks that the tribe could likely purchase a nursing home, but probably wouldn't be able to staff it at this point in time. So that is a huge challenge to expanding senior and long-term care, which those are kind of echoed in some of the needs here. We'll try to wrap this up quick. Some of the needs people shared were that they wanted things to help extend the continuum of long-term care. So they wanted to see things before and after the retreat assisted living. So more like independent living or elder housing communities, but then also a nursing home, because when people are in the retreat assisted living, if they start to require a higher level of care, they have to look at maybe leaving home. So having another option for them to transition to, people were really interested in, as well as echoing that challenge of intergenerational trauma, trying to make up for that today, trying to switch that around, undo some of that harm. And overall, I think people talked about how more than just taking care of elders' basic needs, they want to see a whole system that supports elders with compassion, that's proactive so that they can not just survive, but thrive. The last thing I'll highlight is the main experience people talked about was a really strong preference to age in place. So that means not having to leave your family and community as you age. And that's again, reinforcing why it's so important to try to extend the continuum of long-term care. So that was all I had time to share with you today, but I have compiled a comprehensive summary report that's currently with the TRRB for review at their May meeting. And with presenting it to you all today, I look forward to working with you and the TRRB to determine what information in that report you would like me to take back to the state. And at the end, as I mentioned, we'll send you guys over all the data. So thank you so much. I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks for your work. I was looking at CMS and one of their, that, yeah, you've probably seen it, the document Tribal Nursing Home and Assisted Living Directory. It was kind of interesting just to see what's, out in the country related to that. But thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I noted that that there were not a lot of people who participated in terms of the data collection. So I'm curious, of those, 12, I believe that you had, do you know where, which communities they were a part of? I know you accessed them through the tribal health, but where did they live?
That's a really good question. I have to say, we didn't collect that type of demographic information from people, but I can tell you the provider focus group was all tribal health employees. And the community members all talked about living on the reservation and growing up here. I can't tell you exactly where. Yeah. Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you.
All right.
Matea.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the entire council. So we are complete for the day. And if you guys have anything you want me to address with these researchers, please contact me and we can make modifications or anything you see fit.
Very interesting studies. Appreciate it. Thank you all. We will go out of regular into executive. Yeah, Martin. Your motion. Shay Hoy.